Aloha guys, it's Joe Tunney, and I'm taking a look at a 2002 Lexus SC430. Now the SC430 is a somewhat treasured, somewhat maligned car, and I'm going to share with you why I think if you're looking for an inexpensive car that's an absolute certain collector car down the road, you could do a whole lot worse than taking a look, especially at a 2002 Lexus SC430. Now the SC story goes back a little bit. It goes all the way back to 1990, in fact, when the LS400 had come out, and 1992 when the SC400 and SC300 had come out. Those two cars completely changed the car business. That particular platform of cars might be the single most important thing that had happened in the car business in decades, and it turned the luxury division in particular on its ear. It's probably the single most important luxury car of my entire lifetime, and an extraordinary success for Toyota, who used that same platform to make the Toyota Supra, and as it was for Lexus. So when it came time to make a new Lexus, something to carry on the tradition of success and luxury and opulence, because if you remember back then, the Lexus LS particularly was designed to go head-to-head with the Rolls-Royce. They really had their sights high on that car and succeeded in a major way. And they wanted to continue that with the next generation of SC. So what they did is they sent all their engineers and all the folks that were responsible for making this car to the French Riviera. And they said, this is what we want you to do. The French Riviera is the best of the best in the entire world. It's where the wealthiest people go to celebrate. We want you to study their architecture, their culture, their traditions, and we want you to build the next generation SC off of what you discover on the Côte d'Azur on the French Riviera. Everybody goes there, right? And what do they discover is that the single most quintessential thing in the French Riviera is modern luxury yachts. That's what is the central component of the French Riviera. So they wanted to build a car that appealed to people who were fascinated by luxury yachts. The negative of that is that if you know luxury yachts, if you're around people who are into boats, what do they always refer to their boat as? She. That's not what the car business is. The car business is always kind of throwback to your misspent youth, and that's why we make Challengers today. They look like Challengers yesterday, and Ferraris are red to this day because they used to be red back in the day. It's all about that kind of youthful, boyish, masculine enthusiasm for racing. That's the car world, a very he world, where the yacht business is a very she world. And so the styling of the SC was particularly polarizing. Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear, when he said he had a vote for the worst car in the history of the world, actually chose this SC430 as the worst car in the history of the world. But let me tell you something, it is far from the worst car ever. And in fact, for an investor car, it's got to be at the very, very top of your shortest list for something inexpensive that down the road might be worth a lot of money. Let's pop the hood and start there. Now, powering this SC430 is Lexus's 4.3 liter variable valve timing V8 engine. It puts out 300 horsepower to go with 325 pound-feet of torque. It's actually an ultra-low emissions vehicle, and so that was a big deal for its time, but it is utterly whisper quiet. And the reliability is not just as good as it gets, it's as good as it gets to this very day. A low mile SC might last as long starting today and moving into the future as most new cars you could buy today extending out into the future. It's really that good. And then the 5-speed automatic transmission with just beautiful shifts, beautiful shift action. Again, no abruptness of any kind. This is a car that's designed to go after Bentley and Rolls-Royce, so to speak, as far as being smooth and quiet. Yet still, it goes 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds, which is really good. Taking a look around. One thing about this car is it's unbelievably aerodynamic. It's 0.30 coefficient of drag. Again, that's better than almost all brand new cars. But for a convertible back in 2002, it was a shocker. It is utterly slippery, like a show car type of slippery. The problem is when you have a car that's extremely aerodynamic like that, as soon as you pop the top on it, as soon as you open the retractable roof, all that air is going to come slamming in there and be exceptionally loud. And that's the opposite of what Lexus wanted to do. So they created a new design philosophy along the sides. These sides are engineered in a way that had never been done before on cars, and it moves the air around that the faster you go, it actually stays whisper quiet inside, even with the top down, even going at high speeds. That technology was so innovative, it's actually patented by Toyota and Lexus. Let's take a look inside. Now again, this is a vehicle that's just traded in, and so this isn't some garage queen, it's just somebody's daily driver. It happens to have low miles and be in really nice condition. But this is very typical of what you're going to see in a lot of, not a lot of money, SC430s. Leather, even after all these years, has held up remarkably well. It is super soft and very, very comfortable. Lots of headroom with the top up, and then inside the quality is apparent. For a car that's now 18 or 19 years old, to have the excellent fit and finish throughout with really no bugs of any kind is impressive, to say the least. It also has the Mark Levinson stereo system, and so at the time Mark Levinson had replaced Nakamichi as Lexus's go-to stereo brand, and again at the time it was the best stereo system available in the world. One of the things that you're going to hear to the negative is the back seat. The back seat is extremely small. It's made for more duffel bags and going to the grocery store than anything else. You're going to have to move the seat pretty far forward if you're going to put people in the back. But if you have kids and you just need to take them around every once in a while, you can actually do it in this car. I'm going to turn it on. So the power top operation works in about 20 seconds. You can time it yourself, but between 21, 22 seconds, that's pretty consistent. And again, very, very smooth. Also very quiet. Two things when we come around to the back. The suspension system is a double wishbone suspension system, so that's nice. That was kind of the sexy suspension setup back in 2002. It tracks very well, it's very smooth, it absorbs a lot of bounces. It also handles really well. A lot of high-performance cars, Formula One cars even, used a double wishbone suspension setup. So the suspension is taut, yet still squishy soft over the bumps. But the thing that's a kind of a shocker on this car is the brakes. The brakes are unbelievably fantastic on the SC430, especially given what it is. This car stops from 60 to 0 in 115 feet. To put that in perspective, Ferrari 812 Superfast goes 60 to 0 in about 100 feet. This big, convertible, soft driving luxury car goes 60 to 0 in 115. That's not that different. However, these tires are from technology that's 20 years old. You update this with a new set of tires, it's going to be closer to 100 than probably Ferrari wishes it was. It is really powerful brakes. Great acceleration, whisper quiet, incredible handling, incredible braking, not very expensive, with quality that's built to last forever and ever. Oh, and they're really rare. So far, this sounds like a recipe for a really nice collector's car. Well, let's take it out for a drive. Now, when this car first came out, Car and Driver, Road and Track, all the major magazines couldn't sing its praises enough. And even J.D. Power said it was the #1 luxury car. Kelley Blue Book said it was certain to have the highest resale value moving forward. Just everything positive, positive, positive. It just didn't sell all that well. Again, the styling, although it's gorgeous by today's standards, at the time was a bit controversial. As a result, throughout the 2000s, they only sold 70,000 of the SC430. Most of them that you're going to see are 2002s and 2003s. Half of all SCs sold in the world are 2002 and 2003. 25,000 2002s, 10,000 2003s. After 2003, they never sold 10,000 in a single year again. And so the newer each year gets, the rarer it gets. But I don't think the year is going to make that big of a difference on these SCs, because there's nothing really different. There's Pebble Beach editions. I mean, there's some rare little one-offs in the SC lineup, but as an overall rule, there's no different engines or different performance or anything like that. Any SC will do. It's just the 02 being the oldest and also the most common is going to be your best deal. And I think many years from now, nobody's going to care one way or the other what year it is. They're just going to want one. And I'll tell you why they're going to want one. Because it's a dream to drive, it's really cool, it's extraordinarily well built, and it performs as well or better as most brand new cars, even though it's almost 20 years old. It's an absolutely amazing piece of work. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My name's Joe Tunney. You can reach me at joeloveshawaii@gmail.com.